Hi there, my name is Roxane Webster.
And I'm Keith Alba.
We are the owners and partners of My Home Team at Keller Williams.
And you've turned in to another episode of
The Honest Hour.
The Honest Hour, that's right. This is our opportunity to bring to you our no spin, except for Roxane's one allowable spin, on everything real estate adjacent, just kind of, giving you our insights and thoughts.
Before you dig in, or we dig in, or all of us dig in, could you do us a huge favor? Go and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell,
Ding.
Share this with everybody you know.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. Or as they like to say, the kids say these days, go ahead and smash that subscribe.
Smash that subscribe. Smash it, baby. Look at us being all hip.
That's right.
Right. I remember telling my, my stepson, calling me incredibly old and crusty when he was in middle school. And I said, you have to admit, for a woman in my then 40s, I'm pretty hip. And he said, even the word hip is incredibly old and crusty.
Identifying yourself with your vernacular.
With my vernacular,
Yeah.
yes.
So what's on our topics for today, Rox?
I wanted to talk about selling a house in a market that's not an aggressive seller's market.
Yeah, or in other words, in today's market.
In today's market, that's exactly it.
Okay.
And I think that, something that makes sense, but I've been surprised by is how few agents have ever worked in any market. The only market they've ever worked in is an aggressive seller's market, where pricing a house was about looking at the last thing that sold and pricing a little bit ahead of that, and the house was going to sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is not the case anymore.
It is not the case anymore. It is
between increasing inventory, interest rates that seem to be very sticky up in that higher points right now. It's not an aggressive seller's market.
That's right. In order to sell a house in this market, you have to price it to sell, and you have to prepare it to sell, right? And when we talk about pricing it to sell, one of the things that we hear a lot from sellers is, we walk in and say, okay, this is a nice, lightly or not lightly used home. You should paint it, you should carpet it, you should prepare it so that a buyer walks in and can visualize themselves living in it. And that's a pain in the butt. I get it.
For sure, right?
Right? Especially if you're still living in it. So the temptation is to say, hey, how about I just give them a credit and they can do those things themselves. They can pick their own carpet. And we are finding that is not a winning strategy.
Yeah, the buyers in today's markets they're no longer looking for that opportunity for sweat equity.
That's right.
They want something that's plug and play. Give it to me, let me move in, and maybe in 3-5 years, something along those lines, that's when I'll start doing or addressing some remodel or updating or things along those lines. But for the most part, they want it in pretty pristine condition.
They want something that they can move in today, and it makes perfect sense with these interest rates the way they are. You think about a first-time home buyer, they're spending $3,000, $3,200, $3,500 a month for a first-time home, right? It doesn't make sense that they're going to come in and even have the wherewithal to then start doing some remodeling. And where this really impacts the seller is that in a seller's mind, you can say, well, hey, if I was going to spend $10,000 preparing it, how about I just give them $10,000 and we'll drop off the price, or we'll keep it at the same price. It doesn't work that way. If those buyers, if that segment of the market, that elbow grease, that sweat equity segment is all but non-existent, it means that you're either selling it to first-time home buyers who can move right into it, or you're selling it to investors. And if you're selling it to investors, what are they going to expect?
More than that $10,000.
That's right. They're going to expect a profit margin.
They're going to expect a return. Yeah.
That's right.
Which means that could be
$60,000 or $70,000.
In terms of a discount that they're looking for, in order for them to take on that work, in order for them to take on the risk, right? Because there is no guarantee once they get done with those improvements what the market conditions are going to be like at that time. So there's some inherent risk for those investors that are going to go in and remodel, fix it up, and then turn around and sell it later. And so for that risk, they expect a higher return.
Right. So that $10,000 investment that you're not interested in making right now might end up costing you $60,000 or $70,000 in end net in your pocket. And there are times where that's going to be your choice. But if you're not working with an agent who's having that conversation with you, often it's because they've never worked in this type of market, and they're saying, well, we can drop the price if, let's see if we get lucky at this higher price. Yeah, when the market is declining in values, your house will never be more than it is worth more than it is worth right now in this moment, for the foreseeable future in the market.
Right.
So a strategy of put it on the market now, offer them, put it on a little bit high, we can do a few price reductions. What you're doing is actually costing you money.
You're chasing the value. As it's declining, you're dropping, but you still, unless you do a massive price adjustment to get underneath where that values are, you're just not going to get that buyer, and you're continuously chasing. So it's price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. You still haven't found that buyer, and frustrations start happening. As a seller, you're like, what's going on? And ultimately, it was just poor advice up front and overshot the market, failed to respond timely and in an aggressive manner to be able to catch up.
And that's usually just about lack of experience, folks. It really is. The other thing that we find that often is a misstep when pricing a property is to think about your neighborhood as a monolith, right? That, hey, if somebody wants to buy a house in my neighborhood, they're looking specifically for this neighborhood. And in some markets, that's the case. For the most part, people right now are very price driven. Right, so all the buyers I've worked with this year, they may be looking at properties 10 miles apart from each other. What they're looking for is all the properties they can afford. And then they're looking for the best ones of those.
With their minimum criteria, right?
That's right.
The must-haves, as I call them.
Yeah.
The number of bedrooms, garages, those sorts of things that are non-compromised. But you're right, they're expanding their general search area to a wider generalized area.
So your house is being compared, if your house in Highlands Ranch may be being compared to houses in Littleton and Lakewood.
Lone Tree, and different places along those lines. They're not saying only Highlands Ranch and specifically this one neighborhood within Highlands Ranch. It's much more broad. It's much more general, and it's bringing in a lot more competition.
That's right. So this is a nuanced pricing strategy that really takes experience and confidence to present to you. Because, I'm the same way. If somebody comes into me and tells me something I don't really want to hear, you need to clear out this, paint the whole thing, put in new carpet, and price it for $20,000 less than you thought it should be priced. I want data. Right? I want to see what you're basing that on. And if you're a seller looking at that type of data, we're not just looking at what's happening in your neighborhood. We're looking at that micro data, but we're looking at the macro data of the market as a whole. And it's old school real estate. Look at the data, not just price with, when you're in an aggressive seller's market, you can really put the blindfold on and hit the dartboard. And if it isn't the right price today, it will be in 3 weeks, so who cares? It sells, right? That's not the case right now. You need somebody with skill and experience.
That's right. So if we can have this conversation with you about your place and what we're seeing.
It's possible that we're skilled and experienced.
And we'd be happy to provide you with our advice and intel. So give us a shout, hit us up. We'll get something scheduled and give you an honest, no spin assessment of what your value is.
Smash that subscribe button.
That's it. See you on the next one.